Olivia Carter tightened the strings of her apron as she stepped into the small but charming cooking studio tucked away in the heart of the city. She had signed up for this class on a whim, desperate for a distraction after a particularly rough few months. Between losing her job and struggling to stay afloat, she needed anything to lift her spirits. Cooking had always been a dream she never pursued, and this class felt like a chance to reclaim a piece of herself. What she didn't expect was the man standing at the other side of the room. Tall, effortlessly handsome, and radiating a quiet confidence, he leaned against the counter with an easy charm. His dark hair was slightly tousled, his sharp green eyes scanning the room with curiosity. He didn't look like the type to take a cooking class for fun, more like someone who had personal chefs at his disposal. "Ah, looks like we have our final student," the instructor, a cheerful older woman named Margaret, said. "Olivia, meet your cooking partner for the next 6 weeks, Sebastian Grant." Sebastian turned, flashing her a polite but unreadable expression. "Nice to meet you," he said, his voice smooth and deep. Olivia swallowed, pushing away the unexpected flutter in her chest. "You too." She wasn't here to get distracted by some ridiculously good-looking man. She was here to learn. Margaret clapped her hands. "All right, everyone, tonight we're making handmade pasta. You and your partner will work together to knead the dough and create your own dish." Olivia turned to Sebastian, who was already rolling up his sleeves. His forearms flexed slightly as he did, and she forced herself to look away. "Focus, Olivia. You ever made pasta before?" he asked. She let out a small laugh. "Does boxed spaghetti count?" He grinned, a quick flash of amusement crossing his face. "I think we'll be just fine." They got to work, measuring flour and cracking eggs. Sebastian surprised her by actually knowing what he was doing, moving with a practiced ease. "You've done this before," she accused playfully. He shrugged. "A few times. Didn't peg you for a guy who makes his own pasta." He smirked slightly. "I like learning new things." They fell into an easy rhythm, kneading the dough, rolling it out, cutting it into thin ribbons. For someone who had been so reluctant to come, Olivia found herself enjoying it, and against her better judgment, she liked talking to Sebastian. He was sharp-witted but not arrogant, charming but not overbearing. As they plated their finished pasta and took their first bites, Sebastian glanced at her with an approving nod. "Not bad," she chewed thoughtfully. "Not bad. This is amazing," he chuckled. "All right, I'll admit we make a good team." Something warm settled in her chest. It had been a while since she felt this light, this happy, but as class ended, Sebastian checked his phone, his expression shifting subtly before he quickly put it away. For the first time, Olivia wondered who he really was. There was something polished about him, something that didn't quite fit with the laid-back guy she had just spent 2 hours cooking with. She shook the thought away. It didn't matter. He was just her cooking partner, nothing more, for now. The next week's class came faster than Olivia expected. She had spent the past few days lost in thought, replaying her interaction with Sebastian and wondering why he lingered in her mind. It wasn't just that he was attractive, though he undeniably was. There was something about him, an air of quiet authority beneath his easy charm. She arrived at the studio a few minutes early, tying on her apron when the door swung open. Sebastian stepped in, his presence commanding even in something as simple as a button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up. He looked effortlessly put together, but there was a touch of something different in his expression tonight, something unreadable. "You beat me here," he said, stopping at their station. "Shocking, right?" Olivia teased. "I figured I should at least try to look prepared." Margaret called for attention, announcing that tonight they would be making soufflés. Olivia swallowed hard. Soufflés were notoriously difficult, delicate, and temperamental, much like her current financial situation. Sebastian studied the ingredients with his usual calm. "You've got that look." "What look?" "The one that says you're about to panic." Olivia crossed her arms. "I don't panic." He leaned in slightly, lowering his voice just enough to make her shiver. "Then prove it." Her heart did a little flip, but she quickly masked it with determination. "Fine, let's do this." They got to work, carefully separating eggs and whisking the whites until they formed stiff peaks. Sebastian handled it with precision while Olivia focused on folding the mixture just right. "So," she said, trying to keep things light, "you clearly have experience with this. What's your deal? Former pastry chef, secret contestant on a cooking show?" His lips twitched. "I like challenges." "That's not an answer." "I give the answers I want to." She rolled her eyes but couldn't stop the small grin that tugged at her lips. He was infuriating in a way that made her want to keep pressing, to unearth whatever secrets he was keeping. As they placed their soufflé in the oven, she noticed a subtle shift in the room. One of the other students, a middle-aged man with a sharp gaze, kept glancing toward Sebastian with a look of recognition. Olivia frowned slightly, but before she could dwell on it, Sebastian turned to her. "What made you sign up for this class?" The sudden shift caught her off guard. "I needed a change." "That's vague." She hesitated, then sighed. "I lost my job a couple of months ago. Things have been difficult." Something flickered in his eyes. "What did you do?" "I worked in marketing." "Well, I tried to. Turns out companies don't really care about loyalty when they're making cuts." Sebastian's gaze sharpened. "They let you go just like that," she shrugged. "That's how it goes." There was a beat of silence, then he spoke again, softer this time. "You deserved better." She blinked, caught off guard by the certainty in his tone. Most people gave half-hearted sympathies, but Sebastian sounded like he meant it. Before she could respond, Margaret clapped her hands. "All right, it's time to check our soufflés." Olivia turned back toward the oven, suddenly hyper-aware of how close Sebastian was standing. When they pulled their soufflé out, it was perfect golden, risen, flawless. Olivia let out a breath of relief, and without thinking, she reached out and grabbed Sebastian's hand in excitement. The moment she realized what she had done, she started to pull away, but he didn't let go immediately. His fingers tightened just slightly before he released her, his expression unreadable. "You did it," he said, his voice lower than before. "We did it," she corrected, forcing herself to focus on anything other than the lingering warmth where his hand had been. As the class wrapped up, Olivia noticed the man who had been watching Sebastian earlier step forward, his expression hesitant. "Excuse me," the man said. "Are you Sebastian Grant?" Sebastian's entire demeanor shifted, not dramatically, but enough for Olivia to notice. His easy charm was still in place, but there was a hint of steel beneath it now. "I am," he said smoothly. The man let out a short breath. "I thought so. You're the CEO of Grant Enterprises." Olivia's stomach dropped. "The what?" Sebastian's jaw tightened for a fraction of a second before his usual control returned. "I am," he confirmed. The man quickly introduced himself as someone who had followed Sebastian's business ventures for years, praising his work with an eager enthusiasm. Olivia, however, barely registered the words, "Sebastian Grant, CEO, Millionaire." It suddenly made sense, the confidence, the polished ease, the way he carried himself, and yet he had never once mentioned it, not once. When the man finally left, Olivia turned to Sebastian, arms crossed. "So CEO, huh?" He exhaled slowly, running a hand through his hair. "I was going to tell you. When, after we made a 5-course meal together," he let out a quiet chuckle. "Would that have helped?" She shook her head, still trying to process it. "Why didn't you say anything?" "Because in this class, I'm just another student." His words lingered between them longer than they should have. Olivia wasn't sure what to make of them or the way he was looking at her now, as if waiting for her reaction. She wasn't sure what her reaction was supposed to be, but one thing was certain. This cooking class had just gotten a lot more complicated. Olivia wasn't sure how to feel about the revelation that Sebastian was a millionaire CEO. Over the next week, she kept replaying their conversations in her head, analyzing every interaction. He had never acted superior, never flaunted his wealth. But still, the fact that he hadn't mentioned it at all gnawed at her. By the time the next cooking class rolled around, she had convinced herself that it didn't matter, or at least that it shouldn't. She arrived early again, setting up at their station. When Sebastian walked in, he looked directly at her, his expression unreadable. There was something different about the way he carried himself tonight, still confident, still effortlessly put together, but with an edge of hesitation. "Hey," he said. "Hey." A beat of silence stretched between them before he slipped off his jacket and rolled up his sleeves. "You've been avoiding me," he said, his voice even. "I have not," Olivia countered a little too quickly. His gaze didn't waver. "You have, and I get it," she exhaled. She had never been good at pretending. "It just caught me off guard." "I know." He leaned slightly against the counter, lowering his voice. "But I wasn't hiding it from you, Olivia." She crossed her arms. "You didn't exactly offer the information either." He studied her as if weighing his words. "The moment people hear my name, they treat me differently. I liked that you didn't." She wasn't expecting that. Margaret called for attention before Olivia could respond, announcing that tonight's lesson would be handmade dumplings. Sebastian turned back to her, the weight of the conversation still hanging between them. "Truce," she hesitated, then nodded. "Truce." They got to work, kneading dough and preparing the filling. Olivia focused on the motions, forcing herself not to think about the warmth of Sebastian's presence beside her or the way his sleeves were pushed up just enough to reveal strong forearms. "You're frowning," he noted. "I'm concentrating." "You always concentrate like you're plotting world domination," she nudged him with her elbow. "You always talk this much when you cook," he grinned. "Only when I have good company." She rolled her eyes but felt her lips twitch despite herself. They fell into an easy rhythm, and for a moment, Olivia almost forgot the tension from earlier. But then, as she reached for a rolling pin, Sebastian's hand brushed against hers. A simple touch, but it sent a jolt of awareness through her. She pulled back quickly, pretending to focus on shaping the dumplings. Sebastian, however, didn't miss a thing. "You're jumpy," he observed. "I'm fine," she said, a little too quickly. A flicker of amusement crossed his face. "If you say so." She scowled at the dumplings. "You know, for a guy who didn't want to be treated differently, you're making this very difficult." He chuckled, low and rich. "I'll try to be less distracting." "You're failing." His gaze flickered to her lips for the briefest moment before he turned back to his task. By the time they finished, Olivia had managed to regain some semblance of composure. Their dumplings turned out surprisingly well, crispy on the outside, perfectly seasoned on the inside. As they plated them, Sebastian glanced at her. "So, are we good?" She hesitated before nodding. "Yeah." "We're good." But as they sat down to eat, she couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was happening between them was far from simple. The final class arrived too soon for Olivia's liking. Over the past weeks, she had grown accustomed to the warmth of the kitchen, the rhythmic sound of chopping, the scent of fresh herbs mingling with butter. But more than that, she had grown accustomed to Sebastian. His quiet confidence, his sharp wit, the way he watched her like he was trying to figure out a puzzle only he could solve. She had told herself not to get attached. He was a man who lived in a world far different from hers, a world of high-rise offices and multimillion-dollar deals. But logic had nothing to do with the way her heart clenched every time he looked at her like she was the only person in the room. Tonight's lesson was a full course meal, a culmination of everything they had learned. As Margaret introduced the plan for the evening, Olivia stole a glance at Sebastian. He was already watching her. "Ready to impress?" he asked. She lifted her chin. "I was born ready." His lips curved and something flickered in his gaze, something unreadable, something that made Olivia's pulse stutter. They moved through the steps together, an effortless rhythm they had developed over the weeks. Sebastian handled the protein, searing it to perfection, while Olivia focused on the sauce, carefully balancing flavors until it tasted just right. As she reached for a sprig of rosemary, Sebastian's hand brushed hers. The touch was brief, but her breath caught. "You're distracted," he murmured. She forced a steadying breath. "I'm focused." On the food, she met his gaze, and for a moment everything else faded. The clatter of pans, the hum of conversation, the scent of garlic and herbs thick in the air. "I should be," she said, softer this time. His expression shifted, something unreadable passing through his eyes. By the time they plated their final dish, a quiet tension had settled between them. It wasn't uncomfortable, but it was charged, heavy with words unspoken. As they sat down to eat, Olivia hesitated before speaking. "What happens after this?" Sebastian set his fork down, his gaze steady. "What do you mean?" "This class, it ends tonight," understanding flickered across his face. You think that means we stop seeing each other, she swallowed. Doesn't it? He leaned forward slightly, voice low but firm. Not unless you want it to, her heart pounded. Sebastian, I know this isn't simple. His voice was steady, but there was something raw underneath. But I don't care about simple, I care about you. Her breath hitched. I know my life looks different from yours, he continued. But that doesn't change what I want. She wavered, torn between the instinct to protect herself and the undeniable pull she felt toward him. And what do you want? His jaw tightened slightly before he exhaled. You. The single word sent a ripple through her, shattering whatever walls she had left. She had spent weeks pretending this was just a cooking class, that whatever she felt for him was fleeting. But it wasn't, it never had been. Slowly, she reached across the table, her fingers brushing his. He turned his hand over, lacing his fingers through hers. No more pretending, she murmured. His grip tightened. Never again. And just like that, the world outside the studio ceased to matter. The restaurant was unlike anywhere Olivia had ever been. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the glittering city skyline, and the chandeliers above cast a warm, golden glow over the elegantly dressed patrons. The air was thick with the scent of truffle, seared meat, and freshly baked bread. Sebastian had insisted on taking her out to celebrate the end of their cooking class, and in a moment of reckless curiosity, she had agreed. Now, seated across from him in a private booth, she was beginning to wonder what exactly she had gotten herself into. You're quiet, Sebastian observed, his gaze sharp even in the dim lighting. Olivia toyed with the edge of her napkin, just taking it all in. This place is something else. His expression softened slightly. I wanted to do something special. She glanced around at the pristine table settings, the silent efficiency of the servers, the hushed murmurs of the elite clientele. You didn't have to go this far. I wanted to. The sincerity in his tone sent a shiver down her spine. A waiter appeared with a bottle of wine, pouring them each a glass before disappearing as seamlessly as he had arrived. Olivia picked hers up, swirling the deep red liquid before taking a sip. It was smooth, rich, and undoubtedly expensive. Sebastian watched her reaction with quiet amusement. Approve. It's not boxed wine, so that's already an improvement, she teased. His low chuckle sent warmth curling through her. As their meal arrived, a decadent array of dishes plated with the kind of precision Olivia had only ever seen on high-end cooking shows, she studied the man across from her, trying to reconcile the Sebastian from their cooking class with the one sitting before her now. You're different outside the kitchen, she mused, his brow lifted slightly. How so? She gestured vaguely. Here you're, polished, controlled, back in class, it was different. You were still confident, but there was something more relaxed about you. He leaned back slightly, fingers grazing the stem of his glass. Cooking is one of the few places where I don't have to be the CEO. It's just me, the ingredients, and whatever happens in the moment. She considered that. So in your world, everything has to be calculated. His lips pressed together for a moment before he answered. There's no room for mistakes in my world. One wrong move, and people start questioning whether you deserve to be where you are. The weight in his voice sent a pang through her. You don't have to be that person with me, she said quietly. His gaze flickered, something unreadable passing through it. I know, he murmured. They ate in comfortable silence for a while, the clink of silverware filling the space between them. Olivia was acutely aware of every glance he sent her way, every brush of his fingers against his glass, every shift in his posture. Eventually, Sebastian set his fork down and leaned forward slightly. I meant what I said at the studio. Her heartbeat stuttered. I don't want this to end just because the class is over, he continued. I want to see where this goes, she swallowed hard. Sebastian, your life, this world, it's so different from mine, I don't know if I fit into it. His jaw tightened. Let me worry about that, she exhaled sharply. That's not how it works. His fingers curled slightly on the table. Then tell me what you need. She hesitated, searching for the right words. I need time. I need to know this isn't just because we happen to be thrown together in a class, that it's real. His expression didn't waver. Then I'll give you time, but don't doubt that this is real for me. The intensity in his voice sent a shiver down her spine. She wasn't sure what scared her more, that he meant every word or that she wanted, more than anything, to believe him. Olivia had spent the past week trying to convince herself that her dinner with Sebastian hadn't changed anything. But it had. She could still hear his voice in her mind, steady and unwavering, telling her that this was real, that he wanted to see where things could go. And despite every rational thought telling her to be cautious, she couldn't deny the way her heart had leapt at his words. But wanting something and making it work were two different things. So when Sebastian called and invited her to a charity gala as his guest, she hesitated. "I don't know if that's a good idea," she said, gripping the phone tightly. "Why not?" His voice was calm, but there was an edge of challenge to it. "I don't exactly belong at a place like that." She could almost hear the slight shake of his head through the phone. "You belong anywhere I am." Her breath caught. "I want you there, Olivia," he continued. "Come with me." And just like that, her resistance crumbled. The event was held at an opulent ballroom, the kind Olivia had only ever seen in magazines. Crystal chandeliers cascaded from the ceiling, casting a golden glow over the sea of elegantly dressed guests. Waiters in crisp suits moved gracefully between them, offering glasses of champagne and delicate hors d'oeuvres. She had spent the entire afternoon agonizing over what to wear, eventually settling on a sleek, midnight blue gown that hugged her figure in all the right places. But now, standing at the entrance, she felt entirely out of place. Then Sebastian arrived. Dressed in a perfectly tailored black tuxedo, he exuded effortless power and control. His presence commanded the room the moment he stepped inside, but his focus was entirely on her. "You're breathtaking," he said, his gaze sweeping over her with open appreciation. She swallowed hard, heat rising to her cheeks. "You don't have to say that just to make me feel better." "I don't say anything I don't mean." Before she could respond, he offered his arm. "Walk with me." She hesitated for only a second before slipping her hand into the crook of his elbow. The crowd parted naturally as they moved through the room, guests offering nods of recognition and murmured greetings. Some eyes lingered on Olivia longer than she was comfortable with, the silent question clear in their expressions. Who is she? Sebastian didn't seem to notice or care. He guided her through the event with quiet assurance, introducing her to prominent figures with a natural ease. And though she felt the weight of scrutiny, she also felt something else, a strange sense of security, knowing that he was beside her. At one point, a sharply dressed woman with striking features approached, her eyes flickering between them with interest. "Sebastian," she greeted smoothly, "I was wondering if you'd make an appearance tonight." "I wouldn't miss it," he responded, his tone polite but distant. The woman's gaze shifted to Olivia, assessing, "And this must be—" Sebastian didn't hesitate. "Olivia Carter." Something about the way he said her name sent a shiver through her. The woman's lips curved slightly. "I see." Olivia met her gaze evenly, refusing to shrink under the silent evaluation. After a few more pleasantries, the woman moved on, and Olivia exhaled slowly. "Who was that?" Sebastian's jaw tensed slightly. "An old business acquaintance. She didn't seem thrilled to see me here." He turned to face her fully, his eyes darkening. "Does that bother you?" She considered that for a moment before shaking her head. "No. It takes more than a few curious stares to scare me off." His expression softened, something like pride flickering in his gaze. "Good." As the night progressed, Olivia found herself relaxing, the initial tension easing into something more comfortable. She even surprised herself by enjoying the event, engaging in conversations and soaking in the experience. But as the evening wound down, Sebastian led her to a quieter corner of the ballroom, away from prying eyes. "I need to ask you something," he said, his voice lower now. Her pulse quickened. "Okay." He took a step closer, his presence overwhelming in the best way. "Tell me what you're afraid of," she swallowed. "I'm not afraid." His gaze searched hers. "Then why do I feel like you're still keeping one foot out the door?" She looked away, gathering her thoughts. "It's not that simple, Sebastian." "Then make it simple." She let out a slow breath. I don't want to be something temporary in your life. I don't want to be another passing moment before you move on to something else." His expression darkened. "You think I would ever see you that way?" "I don't know," she admitted. "Your world is so different from mine. And I don't know if I fit into it." He reached for her hand, his grip firm but gentle. "You don't have to fit into it, Olivia. I don't want you to change who you are. I want you exactly as you are." Her heart pounded. "This isn't temporary for me," he continued. "And if you're willing to give this a chance, I'll spend as long as it takes proving that to you." She searched his eyes, looking for any hint of uncertainty. She found none. Then finally she nodded. "Okay," she whispered. A slow, breathtaking smile spread across his face. And when he leaned in, pressing his lips to hers in a kiss that was both a promise and a declaration, Olivia knew she had made the right choice. Months passed, and with every moment, their bond only deepened. Olivia found herself no longer questioning whether she belonged in Sebastian's life because with him, she felt more at home than she ever had before. One evening, as they stood on the rooftop of Sebastian's penthouse, the city lights twinkling around them, he took her hands in his. "I have something for you," he said, his voice steady. She raised an eyebrow. "If it's another extravagant gift, I swear," he chuckled, then pulled a small velvet box from his pocket. Her breath caught. Slowly, he lowered himself onto one knee. "Olivia," he said, his voice filled with certainty. "From the moment I met you, you turned my world upside down in the best way. You challenged me, made me see things differently, made me want something I never thought I needed." Her eyes blurred with unshed tears. "I don't want a life without you in it, so will you do me the honor of marrying me?" She let out a shaky laugh, barely able to speak past the lump in her throat. "Yes," she whispered. 1,000 times yes. As he slid the ring onto her finger and pulled her into his arms, Olivia knew, without a doubt, that this was exactly where she was meant to be, together, forever.